I'm going to start with verse 1 of chapter 3 of Micah. Like I said, the name Micah means he who is like, or well, who is like Yahweh, who is like Yahweh. So I'll begin with verse 1. Then I said, hear now, O heads of Jacob, and you rulers of the house of Israel. Should you not know right ruling? Should you not know right ruling, right? Yahweh gave us the Torah in order to know right ruling, for it is the law of Yahweh. Yet the heads of Jacob were not using the true Torah due to their wrong interpretations and obviously to, well, many things like idolatry and following the enemy instead of Yahweh like they do nowadays. So then I said, hear now, O heads of Jacob, and you rulers of the house of Israel. Should you not know right ruling? You who are hating good and loving evil, tearing away the skin from my people and the flesh from their bones. So this is something that was prophesied, right? That in the end times, people will love evil and hate good. They will call good evil and evil good. And it is what is going on nowadays. And it's sad how it is multiplying. And this new generation is pretty much being born into that evil society in which they hate good and love evil. When you do good or try to do good, they will say either you're crazy, you're stupid, you're dumb. Yet when people act evil, they applaud, they support, and they are even prideful about that, right? Like in, for instance, you know how homosexuality has been growing and expanding through the media and movies and TV shows and all of that. And as we know, it is evil, but they are putting it as something that has to do with love, right? And they are very prideful about it. And that is just to give one example that is very obvious, but there are many others that are a little bit more subtle. Still evil, but they paint it as good, so people end up loving it. So you who are hating good and loving evil, tearing away the skin from my people. Although this in certain cases may have been literal, is mainly spiritual or metaphorical. But as we know in the spiritual sense, the Messiah is our covering. He will be our skin. By the Pharisees, the scribes, taking the name of the Father and the Son away from the people, as it is written in Luke and in Jeremiah 8, they were taking away the key of knowledge of the Father and knowledge of everything that came from the Father, truth. So by taking away or tearing away the name, they were taking away our covering, as in taking away the skin that should cover us for the judgment day, when the rebellious will find themselves naked before the throne, naked of righteousness, naked of works, good works, naked of love, naked of the defense, the covering that would help during judgment. Tearing away the skin from my people and the flesh from their bones. And well, now with this verse that is coming, you know how they have been also promoting, well, depending on where you live or what you watch, but through shows and even news and other things, they've been promoting cannibalism. And even if they are not that open about it, they do it through supposed comedy and other means. And for instance, they just created a food that they say tastes just like human meat, and that's how they promote it. And that's one of the things that makes some people want to eat it, because they say it tastes like human meat, human flesh. And the question would be, how do you know what human flesh tastes like to start with, right? I mean, so they have been promoting it, and sadly, it will come to a point where the sin will grow so much that some people will do it out of pleasure, and others will do it because they will think that's the only way to continue living. Meaning, as the prophets say, there will be certain mothers who will eat their children. And it is very strong and it is very sad, but it's part of the punishment that comes to the world because of the sin of the world. So you who are hating good and loving evil, tearing away the skin from my people and the flesh from their bones, and who have eaten the flesh of my people and stripped off their skin and have broken their bones and have cut it up as into a pot, like flesh in the cooking pot. So they have been eating the people, and like I said, in the literal sense, it has happened and it will happen and is happening in a way. But in the spiritual is the fact that they take away salvation from them and take everything they can from the people, like money and whatever. So they pretty much end up eating up the people, like they end up consuming the people whom they were supposed to lead to the Father, lead to repentance. Yet they didn't know repentance, so how can they teach it? And who have eaten the flesh of my people and stripped off their skin and have broken their bones and have cut it up as into a pot, like flesh in the cooking pot. Therefore, when they cry to Yahweh, he does not answer them. This is a key verse because like what I just mentioned regarding certain women who will eat their children. We cannot judge Yahweh. He is the judge, and we know he is good, he is righteous. So what he does has a reason, and a perfect one, with a purpose. So people, because of what I said regarding the children, or well, just the fact that children die, that makes certain people judge Yahweh as evil. First of all, they do not understand what this life is all about, reason why death exists. Second, they are not taking into account at all the fact that there is another life, and the one that is perfect and good. So by taking those two key things away from the judgment, they end up thinking that the enemy is the Almighty, not understanding that the enemy is the one taking away the judgment from their minds, from their heads, for them not to really get to understand through logic scriptures, or why Yahweh does what he does. Or even if they don't understand why Yahweh does everything that he does, to accept it, which is part of faith. You know he's good, even though you may not understand why everything that happens. We know it's because of sin. Everything that has to do with evil is because of sin. So this is the key right here. Therefore, when they cry to Yahweh, he does not answer them. So people will say, but why doesn't he answer? Well, because there's too much sin in the middle, as a big wall that doesn't allow sound to pass through, that doesn't allow your prayer to get to the Father. So therefore, when they cry to Yahweh, he does not answer them and hides his face from them at that time, as they have made their deeds evil, and hides his face from them at that time, as they have made their deeds evil. So that time, mainly the end times, Yahweh will hide more than he has, in the sense that we are living in the end times, a time of darkness. That's why he said that he would manifest like a thief in the night. So a thief not only like under the cover of darkness, but also uses a mask and several other things to cover his tracks, if he's a good thief, right? So Yahweh comes like a thief. Therefore, they won't be able to recognize him. And when I say they, I mean those who are away from him, those who don't really know him, even those who claim to believe in him, sadly, but haven't read the scriptures to actually know him. So he says that to them, he comes like a thief, but those who are sons of the light, like the son of righteousness. So I say that because he won't hide from everybody, of course. He will hide from those leaders that he mentioned here in the first verse, and rulers who have used their authority to control the people and take advantage of the people and take away everything from the people. Everything that they work for and that they do, they consume it. And leaders, obviously politicians as well as religious leaders. So therefore, when they cry to Yahweh, he does not answer them and hides his face from them at that time, as they have made their deeds evil. Thus said Yahweh concerning the prophets who lead my people astray, who are biting with their teeth and have called out peace, right? Have called out shalom. They even set apart a battle against him who does not give for their mouths. Thus said Yahweh concerning the prophets who lead my people astray, right? Right now, the apostasy has been going on for almost 2,000 years, and obviously has been getting worse with time, as everything in this reality. And that is what the apostasy pretty much means, to go astray from the truth. So there are many prophets who prophesy in the name of Baal, right? The name of the Lord. For Lord is the translation of Baal in Hebrew. So they have been prophesying in the name of Baal, yet people believe that Baal is Yahweh. So those prophets have been taking people away from the truth. And one of the things that they say is shalom. There will be shalom. But as they are telling everybody there will be shalom, everything will be fine, don't worry about it, everything will be nice, while being in the false doctrine and all of that, they are biting with their teeth. They are consuming the people as they tell them everything will be fine, everything will be fine, shalom, peace. They even set apart a battle against him who does not give for their mouths. Those who do not feed their pleasures, their desire for honor, glory as they call it, for fame, for money, whatever, they prepare a battle for them. But those who let them eat, to them they say shalom, which is similar to how Mashiach spoke about the Pharisees who would go to the house of the widow and do these huge long prayers in order to eat everything that the widow had. So they claim they are helping the widow. They will pray for the widow, extend the prayer as much as possible in order to have enough time to eat everything in the house. So pretty much the same. I will pray for you as long as you allow me to consume you, pretty much is what they would do, as we see here, who are biting with their teeth and have called out peace. Also, well, they even set apart a battle against him who does not give for their mouths. So remember that their Elohim is their belly. Their mighty one is their stomach. So whoever doesn't feed those desires of the flesh, to them is an enemy. Therefore, they prepare a battle. But to those who are blind, pretty much, and continue going through the wrong way, following these false prophets, to them they say shalom, of course, peace. Let me see this verse right here, verse 5. Thus said Yahweh concerning the prophets who make my people astray, who chant shalom while they chew with their teeth, but who prepare war against him who puts nothing into their mouths. Yep. Therefore, it shall be night to you without vision. Therefore, it shall be night to you without vision. So first, they will be as in the night. They will be in darkness, which is pretty much what I was saying regarding how the end times will be a night for those who are wicked, for they won't see Yahweh coming as a thief in the night. And that's why they won't have any vision, even though they were prophets. Even though they were prophets, Yahweh will not give them vision, which is pretty much what a prophet should receive, right? Either through wisdom, understanding, or just literal vision, as in a dream. Therefore, it shall be night to you without vision, like saying, yeah, you're going to be as in the night, meaning darkness, but without receiving visions, meaning without dreams. No matter how long the night is, you won't dream. And what I mean, I repeat, would be those dreams that would reveal things to the prophet regarding the people. So they end up getting visions from the enemy, from Baal, like I was saying. Therefore, it shall be night to you without vision, and darkness to you without divination. The sun shall go down on the prophets, and the day shall be dark for them. The day, what day? The day of Yahweh, the day of the manifestation. It is day, but to them is dark, because it is the time when he manifests as a thief in the night for those who are blind. Here we have 5 verses where thieves and night is mentioned, but these 2 are the main ones. Yahweh is not slack concerning his promise, as some count slackness, but is long-suffering toward us, not willing that any should perish, but that all should come to repentance. But the day of Yahweh will come as a thief in the night, in which the heavens will pass away with a great noise, and the elements will melt with fervent heat. Both the earth and the work that are in it will be burned up. Therefore, since all these things will be dissolved, what matter of persons ought you to be in set apart conduct? Then we have this other one, 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, and it says, now, brothers, as to the times and the seasons, you do not need me. You do not need to be written to. And that doesn't mean that this doesn't matter, the times and the seasons. It means you already know. You shouldn't have a need for me to have to tell you again. That is the point of this verse. And I say that because some people take this verse as to say, you see, it doesn't matter. Seasons and times, that doesn't matter. But he's not saying that it doesn't matter. He's saying you do not need to be written to regarding this teaching. For you yourselves know very well that the day of Yahweh comes as a thief in the night. For when they, not when we, but when they say peace and safety, interestingly enough, we see right here how the prophets say peace. For when they say peace and safety, then suddenly destruction comes upon them as labor pains upon a pregnant woman, and they shall not escape. They shall not escape. But you, brothers, listen to this, but you, brothers, are not in darkness. You are not in darkness. That's why you don't need me to write to you about the times and the seasons. And this is also interesting because it kind of fits with what I've been mentioning regarding the Essenes, the calendar of the Essenes, and well, with the book I've been reading, which I have found a bunch of things that really are sad because the author is Christian, so he started adding a lot of the Christian doctrine to what he was finding out, and now it's kind of a mess by the half of the book, but it's cool. It's part of the what we get to find from those type of books. So we need to learn through scriptures to take the good. So, anyways, what I was saying is that remember that the Jews, they follow a calendar according to the moon. They begin the day in darkness. So they were called the sons of darkness by the Essenes, while the Essenes call themselves the sons of light, because the calendar that we must follow is one that starts when the sun comes up, like the son of righteousness, because we are sons of the light. We are the light of the world, etc. So basically, the Pharisees were called the sons of darkness, while those who follow the true calendar, the sons of light. And obviously, Yahushua being the light of the world, and he told us that through him we would become the light of the world as well. Then the main sons of light are those who follow Mashiach, not necessarily the Essenes, because remember, John the Baptist may have been an Essene, but not Mashiach. They were supposed to convert to Mashiach, just like everybody else, no matter how close they were already to the truth. So, for when they say peace and safety, then suddenly destruction comes upon them as labor pains upon a pregnant woman, and they shall not escape. But you, brothers, you believers, are not in darkness, so that this day should not overtake you as a thief. This verse is so important. I think it's important to remember it and to keep it like whenever you go into debate or whatever with somebody about the end times, because when you start talking about the end times, it's very common for Christians to say, oh, nobody knows, so let's not talk about it. And that's just because they don't know, and because they have fear, and because they have been taught that nobody knows, because they have been taught that he will come as a thief in the night for everybody. That's pretty much the teaching in Christianity, even though this is written right here. So when they say nobody knows and you shouldn't get into it or whatever, if he comes like a thief in the night, they don't understand that if they see that, or if they believe that the Messiah will come as a thief in the night for them, then they are testifying that they are sons of darkness. They are testifying that they are rebellious. Because as he says here, you brothers, those who believe the same as those who wrote the scriptures, are not in darkness, because we have the light, so that this day should overtake you as a thief, right? We are not in darkness, so that this that will happen to those who are in darkness doesn't happen to us. We should be prepared. And remember that Yahweh doesn't do anything without revealing it through his servants, the prophets, or to his servants, the prophets, and the prophets go and reveal it to the people. So that's why he sends two prophets, the two witnesses. They prophesied 1,260 days, which, by the way, well, I'm going to do this on Shabbat, and that's why this is in Spanish. But let me show something real quick. I'll just show one of several images that we'll see on Saturday, on Shabbat. So let's say the last 7 years begin next year. Let's say that just to do this example. Let me share this image. So here was actually in English. I thought it was in Spanish. So here we have the 12th of the 4th month, 2023. And let me go and show you on our calendar. This is in Spanish. So winter is during the last 3 months of the year. That's why it's blue. Those are the 3 months of winter. And Macron, and we know they follow a different calendar, yet he said that the time of abundance would end on winter. So it's pretty much saying that by the end of this year, in our calendar, is when the time of abundance would end. And time of abundance connects with the 7 years of the fat cows seen by the Pharaoh and Joseph. So as you can see, this is the calendar for 2023 to 2024. So next year, the year will begin on March 22nd of the Gregorian calendar. Our year begins on March 22nd. And let's say those, well, that will be the beginning of the last 7 years. If I go back to the image I just showed you, which said it's 12th of the 4th month, that will be the 12th of April. You can see right here, the 12th of April is the 22nd of the year, right? Of the beginning of the year, right here. So it would be right after finishing Matzot. So Yahushua came and fulfilled Pesach. He died, was buried on Matzot, and then he was resurrected on the 18th, right here during Matzot. Like I have said, well, we'll talk about this later regarding Bikurim, how pretty much in the book of Jubilees, it says it's on the 26th instead of the 19th. It will be on the 26th. That would bring Shavuot from the 8th to the 15th. And that is a good thing that I found in that book that I mentioned. A detail that I had not taken into account, which is very interesting. And I'll show you that in just a moment. So Mashiach came and fulfilled the Feast of Matzot. And well, I just remember something. And let me see. Yeah, well, I think I'm going to have to explain a lot more, so I'll try to keep it short. And if anything, you can ask questions. Remember that I mentioned also in this book, there are, well, it confirmed our calendar in many ways. Well, every way. And he had 4 different ways of adjusting the calendar because of what happens since our calendar is 364 days and the Gregorian calendar or the cycle of the sun is 365.24 or 0.25. So there were 4 ways, out of which he mentioned 2 that were the main or the most possible ways in which that the people in the past adjusted the calendar. And one of those 2 is the one we've been following the past 4-5 years. So we've done that adjustment just once. If I'm not mistaken, we've done it once already since we started with this calendar. Yet he mentioned another opinion. So there were 2 of the main ones. We're using one, yet the other one kind of or could make sense. And I'm going to speak about that on Shabbat. So I'll say more and show more. So if that is the case, because of when the year would start, there will be a difference of 7 days because of the adjustment, right? 1 week. So obviously, if the 12th of April would be here 7 days before, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 would be Matzot, the 15th, when he died. So either at the end or at the beginning, So if we adjust it on 2025, would be starting the year on March 26th, then the counting from this moment, from this year, would be on April 12th, right at the very end of Matzot. But if we adjust it according to that other way, which I mentioned, that most possibly we will, because a couple things that seem to make sense, then it will be from the 15th. And I hope that is understood, at least the fact that the only difference will be a week. And what's interesting is that Matzot lasts a week. So it would be either from the end of Matzot, which Mashiach fulfilled, or from the beginning when he died, which in a way makes more sense. All right. Because like I said, when he died, the witnesses would start, the two witnesses. So on Shabbat will be clear, sadly, this thing that I had not thought about. And I don't think I should explain at the moment. So I'll just continue. So the point is that on this that I'm showing, calculating the days, is from April 12th, because of the adjustment that I have taken in account at the time when I did the image. But if we do change that I'll mention on Shabbat, then this will bring us back to the 15th. So from the 15th of Aviv, which would be April 5th, if we count 1,260 days, like the book of Revelation says regarding the two witnesses, until the 23rd of September of 2026, that would be 3.5 years. And this would be the day right before Yom Teruah. Obviously, changing the adjustment still would be the day right before Yom Teruah. It would just take us 7 days earlier, because this would be the 5th, right? And therefore this would be the 16th. But in our calendar, still the same time. So 3.5 years exactly from when Mashiach died till Yom Teruah, when the two witnesses would be captured. As you can see, 360 days. I mean, 1,260 days, just like Revelation 11. 3.5 years, 1,260 days from the death of Mashiach to the beginning of the imprisonment of the two witnesses. So when they stop their testimony, they are imprisoned for 10 days and then they are killed on Yom Kippur. So this goes perfectly. And the other thing that I was going to mention, I'll do right now, which is kind of one of the reasons, or perhaps the main reason why I'm getting into a little bit more into the idea of what Jubilee said regarding Shavuot being on the 15th. If we count from Sukkot, the 5th day of the 10th month, so October 5th of 2022, for instance, in this case, that's when it's going to fall, till the day right before, or well, pretty much to the 14th of Sivan, the last day of the count, according to that idea of Shavuot being on the 15th. Those are 1,260 days. 1,335 days. I'm sorry, I don't know what I'm saying. 1,335 days, which is the time that Daniel said that would last from the abomination of desolation until the people are ready to come out and live during the 1,000 years of Shabbat. When he said, happy is he who waits pretty much 1,335 days. So that would mean that from the beginning of Sukkot, which is when the false Messiah will manifest, the first day of Sukkot, which this would confirm it perfectly, till the Shavuot, in which everything will be completely confirmed and done. There will be 1,335 days, and that will be pretty much the reason why Daniel says it. So this calculation, the fact that this is what the amount of days between Sukkot and this day of Sivan is what is making me get a little bit deeper into seeing if we should move Bikurim as well, which I think you guys know already, the reason why we've had it the way we've had it, and why I'm having such a hard time with changing it, because of the fact that Mashiach is our first fruits of the dead. Mashiach resurrected and presented himself before the Father on the day we have it. So that's why I find it as key. But anyways, that's a subject for another time. So I'll continue with Micha. And now let me see around here. So yeah, the thing I was reading was, for when they say shalom, peace and safety, then suddenly destruction comes upon them. That was the point why I went there, because 1,260 days is the teaching, the testimony of the two witnesses. 1,260 days from the death of Mashiach till Yom Teruah, when they are captured. And that is mainly when they will say peace and safety, because they would blame the two witnesses for everything. And some, sadly, will claim the two witnesses were the Antichrist and the false prophet. So those who follow blindly the false leaders, religious and politicians, religious leaders, they will claim that the two witnesses were the Antichrist and the false prophet. So once they say that, a lot of people will believe it, and they will say peace and safety. Finally, we have defeated Satan. But then suddenly destruction comes upon them as labor pains upon a pregnant woman, and they shall not escape. Nobody will escape at that moment from the last 7 plagues. But I repeat, brothers are not in darkness. So remember how this had to do with the calendar as well. Like I said, the sons of light, those who follow the true calendar, sons of darkness, those who do not. So here, Paul is making pretty much a contrast between the two. But like I said, the main idea is the spiritual. The other one is just one that I mentioned to pretty much confirm. So you brothers are not in darkness, so that this day should overtake you as a thief. So the 144,000 will know who the two witnesses are. They will be ready. So when they are captured, they will know how to act, what to do next, which is pretty much get ready to flee. For you are all sons of light and sons of the day. Sons of light first and sons of the day last. We are not of the night nor of darkness. So then we should not sleep as others do, but we should watch and be sober. For those who sleep at night, and those who get drunk are drunk at night. But we who are of the day should be sober, putting on the breastplate of belief and love. Breastplate of belief and love. Remember, there's a person who has been talking a lot about the breastplate of justice, not understanding what that actually is. And I have mentioned it many times regarding it is our faith in Mashiach, the testimony of Mashiach in our heart, as Romans 10 says. But here we have it in a different way, which is still the same. Breastplate of belief and love. That is what covers our heart. Believe and love, not the laws of men. And as a helmet, the expectation of deliverance. That's why the helmet is the name of the Son and the Father, of course, that goes on the forehead. So I could continue because it's a good chapter, but let me go back to Micah. Yeah, it's great. So Thus said Yahweh concerning the prophets who lead my people astray, who are biting with their teeth and have called out peace. They even set apart a battle against him who does not give for their mouths. Therefore, it shall be night to you without vision and darkness to you without divination. Verse 6. Yeah, without divination. The sun shall go down on the prophets, so they won't see the sun. To them, they will be during the night in darkness. And the day shall be dark for them. The day shall be dark for them. So that means also it's important not only when Yahweh manifests as the Son of Righteousness, to them, there will be no sun because they won't be able to see him. They will be blind pretty much. The day shall be dark for them. The light that the last brings to them will be darkness. That's why they will reject it. The day shall be dark for them. That's why, as it says here, they hate good and love evil. So if they hate good and love evil, that means they hate light and love darkness. So to them, light is darkness and darkness is light. So when the last appears with light, to them, it will be darkness. So they will reject him as somebody that is evil. Hope that's clear. The sun shall go down on the prophets, and the day shall be dark for them. And the seers shall be ashamed. And the seers shall be ashamed. And the diviners embarrassed. And they shall all cover their lips, for there is no answer, O Elohim. They won't receive an answer. Similar to when the prophets of Baal, prophets of the Lord, were trying to get them to take the sacrifice. And Eliyahu was laughing at them. And then Eliyahu prayed to Yahweh and he consumed his sacrifice, right, in Mount Carmel. They will be ashamed, the false prophets, when they realized that they had no basis, they had not really the true Messiah. And the seers shall be ashamed, and the diviners embarrassed, and they shall all cover their lips, for there is no answer, O Elohim. But truly, I am filled with power. But truly, I am filled with power, with the Ruach of Yahweh, and with right ruling, and with might, to declare to Jacob his transgression, and to Israel his sin. Right? Like the few and the many, well, in this case, the many and the few. But remember that the few pretty much have no sin. Once they become the few, once they are chosen, the sin is taken from them. So since here he's talking about transgression and sin, as I have mentioned, Yaakov represents the Israelites of the flesh, the Israelites of the spirit, in the sense of Yaakov would be the Yahudim who rejected Mashiach, Israel, the Gentiles who accepted Mashiach through a false name. So they still in sin. They still following Baal, the same that they follow. Reason why they rejected Mashiach. But truly I'm filled with power, with the spirit of Yahweh, and with right ruling, and with might, to declare to Yaakov his transgression, and to Israel his sin. Remember that Micah, which is saying here, he's filled with power. Remember that Micah represents the last, Michael, who comes to preach of the true doctrine, which is Yahushua. And that's why he's filled with power, because we can do all things through Mashiach who strengthens us. So, Ve'ulam Anoki Maleti Koach. I am filled with power from the Ruach of Yahweh, at Ruach Yahweh, and judgment, or right ruling, as it appears there. Ugbura, or with Geburah. Remember that Yahushua brought wisdom, favor, and the triumph. The last brings understanding, gevurah, or as let's see how they put it here. Yeah, might, gevurah, and hod, lehagid, to declare to Jacob his transgression and to Israel his sin. Verse 9. Hear this, please, you heads of the house of Jacob and you rulers of the house of Israel. So what I was saying regarding Michael being whom Micah represents here would be the last who comes to teach of Mashiach, filled with the Ruach of Yahweh, as Isaiah 11 prophesies, with right ruling and with might, Gevurah, confirming that it is referring to the last. Right ruling, for he comes to bring judgment, just like Mashiach came to bring mercy, forgiveness. And then he says to declare, for the last is the voice, to Jacob his transgression and to Israel his sin, meaning to the world, Jews and Gentiles, many and few. Hear these, please, you heads of the house of Jacob and you rulers of the house of Israel, who despise right ruling and distort all that is straight. And distort all that is straight. Verse 9. So, hear these, please, you heads of the house of Jacob and the rulers of the house of Israel, who despise right ruling and distort all that is straight. As we know, Yahushua is the way of Yahweh. He is straight in the sense that doesn't go to right or left. Yet they distort the true way, which is straight, and therefore despise right ruling, because the right ruling must be according to the truth, which is the way that is straight. Those building up Sion with bloodshed and Jerusalem with unrighteousness. Those building up Sion with bloodshed and Jerusalem with unrighteousness. Part of the things that I also mentioned from that book I'm reading at the moment was a calculation done through the prophecy given to Ezekiel, Yehezkel, and another one also mentioned in Daniel, though the one from Yehezkel I think is clearer. And basically the time when he rested on right side and then on the left, right? He did it for 430 days, 40 on one side, 390 on the other side. So he was referring to 430 days of prophesying of 430 years of punishment for the people. 70 years is the time that the people, Israel, were in Babylon because of a punishment. So from those 430, we take 70. And let me see something because and we get 360. So then in Leviticus, it says that because of the sin of the people, Yahweh would multiply 7 times the punishment. So 367 times would be, if I'm not mistaken, 2,520. So then you turn that into the calendar that people use nowadays, and it would take basically from the time when the people of Israel came out of Babylon, when Cyrus conquered Babylon and gave the decree to begin, to make Israel once again the land of the Yahudim. From that moment, we count those years that I mentioned from the prophecy of Ezekiel, and that takes us to the year 1948, when Israel became a nation, which is interesting because 1948 from Adam would have been the year when Abraham was born. And I find that interesting, well, obviously for several obvious reasons, but other than that, because Yahweh called Abraham to do, his ministry pretty much when he was 75 years old. So 75 years from 1948 takes us to 2023. So that could be a sign, right? If 1948 was such a big sign, then 2023 would be another important year. If 1948 is compared to Abraham, then 2023 should also be connected with Abraham. So just to keep that in mind. And what I was saying, like something that I would say is that it is good or important that Israel was recognized as the name of that land. But we know that those who made it happen were not of Yahweh. And those, or most of those who are in there calling themselves Jews, they are not really Yahudim. They are not Israelites. They don't come from Yaakov genetically. So just want to keep that in mind as well. I think it's important. And I think it fits with this verse. Those building up Sion with bloodshed and Jerusalem with unrighteousness. For that's how they have been doing for years. Building up Sion with bloodshed and Jerusalem with unrighteousness. Her heads judge for a bribe. Her priests teach for pay. This is interesting because it is, so obvious that this is what is going on nowadays, so much so that people don't want, a lot of people don't want to be concerned with anything called religious, because they realize that every priest nowadays, most of them are just going for a pay. They are just trying to get something. So that's how they notice that they are not that spiritual, right? Even here on YouTube, so many, if not all, no matter how, they're Christians, Jewish, or whatever, you can see, right, all the ads, commercials through, like in the middle of the video, right on the bottom, right on the side. And not only that, they keep on saying and help the ministry and put money here and put money there, PayPal here, PayPal there, or whatever, Cash App, or whatever other things they use, right? And you guys know I do have a PayPal, but I really don't mention it. I just put it there in case somebody wants to help, which is a bit different, I hope, right? Because I don't even monetize the channels. And I think that also, when it comes to the algorithm, doesn't help, because YouTube also wants to make money, right? But I think is the right way to do it. And I think it's best also for you guys, because I really hate commercials, so, and ads, and to have to skip them. So I think it's better if I do it that way. And I know Yahweh will take care of everything. But my point is that sadly, a lot of the people, most of the people who preach, they actually do it for the pay. There are some who have turned into preachers just to get money from the people, not thinking about the calling, or perhaps they didn't even have a call. Yeah, it was the money calling. And as we know, fortune was called in Hebrew God, and that's why Yahweh says, right, they left Yahweh to go after God. So yeah, God called them, right, to that ministry in which they just want to make money. And Yahweh said that they follow God and many, as in money. Isaiah 65:11. And here we have verse 11 as well. Her heads judge for a bribe. Her priests teach for pay. Yeah. And her prophets divine for a price. Yet they lean on Yahweh and say, is not Yahweh in our midst? Evil does not come upon us. So they do all of that, and they still believe and claim that Yahweh is with them, that the Almighty is with them. And that's why they say evil does not come upon us. Yet when the time comes, they will be destroyed. And also, like I always say, because there are people who, when they begin going and the true doctrine, they start getting tested pretty much. And many or some start to wonder or even doubt if what they are doing or the change they made in their lives was for good, because they started seeing bad things happening to them. Not understanding that when you begin the way, when you start going after Yahweh, when you repent of your evil deeds and start going after Yahweh, the enemy will not be happy and he will come to war with you. And that's why we are in a spiritual war. And we need to understand that there will be a battle in our mind, in our heart, in our pocket, however the enemy sees fit for the person that he wants to bring down, right? Because everybody has different weaknesses, and those weaknesses are the ones that the enemy will go after. So if a person loves money, he will go with that temptation, of course, and whatever else that whatever person may be weak, that weakness is what he will attack. So that's what people must know. When they start going in the way of Yahweh, the enemy will get angry, because when we were doing evil, the enemy was with us right there doing it as well and helping. So the fact that some people are blinded, thinking that they don't go through evil or don't go through things because they are with Yahweh, there are certain cases in which they're not going through anything evil because they are following evil, and evil won't show itself to them so that they don't realize what they're doing. Right? Because that's pretty much how it will work, and that's how it will keep him with him. And that's why also people do contracts with the enemy, thinking that that's how the enemy won't touch them. That's how scripture talks about those who made a covenant with death, hoping that death won't pass by them, won't touch them. But Yahweh breaks that covenant. So that's pretty much my point. People, they do a covenant with death so that death doesn't touch them, not understanding that there is one who is above death, who controls death, and there's nothing death can do about it. When the time comes for those who must die, they will die, no matter what covenant they have with death or how close they are to the enemy. So her judges, her heads judge for a bribe, her priests teach for a pay, and her prophets divine for a price. Yet they lean on Yahweh and say, is not Yahweh in our midst? Evil does not come upon us. Therefore, because of you, Sion is plowed like a field, and Jerusalem becomes heaps, and the mountain of the house like a wooden height. So mention 3, because mention the heads that judge, the priests that teach, and the prophets that divine. So the judges, the heads, plowed like a field, Sion connected with the head, Jerusalem connected to the priests who teach. They will become as heaps of stones, for there were stones that could have been used to build the temple, yet because of following the money, thinking only about getting paid, they will just become heaps. And the mountain of the house like a wooded height, connected with the prophets. And that's how the chapter ends.